All right, let's dive right in. Today we're talking about existential psychology, and it all kicks off with this one kind of huge idea. What if you, and only you, are the absolute center of your own universe? It's not just a philosophy, it's a powerful way of looking at psychology itself.
And this sentence right here, this is the bedrock of everything we're about to get into. You are nothing else but what you make of yourself. Now that might sound a little scary, right? But it's also incredibly empowering. It's really the first principle of existentialism. You are the architect of, well, you.
So let's break that down. The first principle is that existence precedes essence. What on earth does that mean? Well, think about something like a paper knife. Someone had the idea for it, its essence, before it was ever made. It has a built-in purpose. Existentialists argue that for us humans, it's the complete opposite. We just show up. We exist first, with no pre-written script, no built-in purpose, and then, through all the choices we make, we create our own essence, our own identity.
And this leads to a really crucial point. If we're the ones defining ourselves, then we are completely responsible for who we become. There's no blueprint, no divine plan to blame or to follow. We are just hurled toward the future, and the full weight of who we become, that is all on us.
So where did an idea this big even come from? It didn't just appear out of thin air, you know? Nope. It was built on the shoulders of some pretty heavy-hitting philosophical giants. Let's take a look at the thinkers who laid this very foundation.
Okay, so our journey starts back in the 19th century. We've got Soren Kierkegaard, who was all about faith and anxiety. Then comes the super provocative Friedrich Nietzsche, who basically threw a wrench in traditional morality. And finally, Martin Heidegger, who made us look our own mortality right in the eye. Each one of these guys added a critical piece to this whole puzzle.
Let's start with Kierkegaard. Now, he was a really religious guy, and for him, all of this freedom was kind of terrifying. He said true faith isn't about just following the rules of a church. It's a personal, subjective leap. And when you're making that choice, totally alone before God, you feel this deep anguish. But here's the twist. He argued that's not a bad thing. That feeling of anguish is the feeling of being truly, authentically alive.
Then you've got Nietzsche, who took things even further. He's famous for declaring, God is dead. And what he meant by that was that the whole foundation of traditional morality had just crumbled. So, what do we do now? He proposed this idea of the will to power. And it's not about dominating others. It's about overcoming yourself. He believed humanity's purpose was to use this drive to become a Superman, a new kind of human who creates their own values. And that brings us to Heidegger. He was really focused on the question of just being. He came up with this term Dasein, which basically means being there, to describe the unique way we humans exist. See, we're just kind of thrown into this world. We don't get to pick our parents or where we're born. And crucially, we're the only creatures who know for sure that we are going to die. That knowledge creates anxiety, yeah? But Heidegger said it's also the very thing that pushes us to live an authentic life, to make our time here count.
Okay, so we have all these heavy philosophical ideas floating around. Who's the one who grabbed them all and really turned them into a kind of psychology? That would be Jean-Paul Sartre. He took what these guys started and aimed it right at the lived human experience.
Sartre's starting point is, well, it's pretty bleak. He takes Nietzsche's idea and makes it even more intense. For Sartre, if there's no God, it's not some call to become a hero. It's actually a source of major distress. It means there's no pre-written rulebook for what's good or bad. We are just completely, utterly on our own to figure it all out.
So how do we even begin to deal with that kind of radical freedom? Well, Sartre made this really brilliant distinction. He talked about two totally different ways of existing in the world. And understanding this is absolutely key to his whole psychological framework.
All right, so here are Sartre's two realities. First, you've got the in itself, or en soi. Think of a rock or a table. It just is. It has no potential, no choices, it's just a thing. Then you have the for itself, the pour soi, and that's us, human consciousness. We are never just a finished thing. We're always incomplete, always looking toward the future, full of possibilities. In a weird way, we're defined by what we haven't become yet.
Now here's the problem, according to Sartre. Being a for itself, being totally free is a heavy burden. It's exhausting. So a lot of us try to pretend we're an in itself. We say things like, oh, I can't help it, that's just how I am, or I had no choice. We try to act like we're a finished object, like a rock. But when we deny our own freedom like that, we're living inauthentically. And Sartre says the psychological price for that is huge. Nausea, forlornness, anxiety, and despair.
So this all sounds pretty abstract, right? A bunch of philosophy. How did it become a real, practical approach to psychology? Well, the answer is pretty intense. It was forged in crisis. These ideas weren't tested in some comfy university lab. They were tested in the absolute worst conditions you can imagine.
And that brings us to two really key figures, Viktor Frankl and Rollo May. These guys weren't just thinking about this stuff, they were living it. Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camps. Rollo May survived a brutal case of tuberculosis in a sanitarium where people were dying all around him. And both of them, facing death, noticed something really important about what separates the people who survive from the ones who just give up. And what they observed led to a major shift in how we think about psychology. You know, traditional psychoanalysis, like Freud's, is kind of like depth psychology. It's always looking down, digging into your past to find the root of your problems. But Frankl proposed what he called height psychology. He said we should be looking up toward the future. He argued that even in the absolute depths of suffering, what keeps you going isn't fixing your past. It's having a meaning to live for in the future.
So where does all of this leave us? What's the big takeaway from existential psychology? Well, it's not some warm, fuzzy answer or a 5-step plan. It's more like a direct, really challenging command.
See, we always talk about finding our purpose in life, right? Like it's some lost treasure we have to go searching for. Existential psychology just looks at that idea and says, nope, that's completely wrong. Meaning isn't something you discover out there in the world, it's something you create. It's something you bring to the world. Through every choice you make, every commitment you hold, you are literally forging meaning out of the raw, messy stuff of life. And that's the bottom line, really. You are not just a passenger watching your life go by. You are the author. And yeah, the responsibility for writing that story is huge, but so is the freedom. Ultimately, the choice is yours.